Welcome to Learn English with Podcast, the place where learning English is simple, practical, and fun. Whether you're studying at home, walking to work, or relaxing before bed, this podcast will help you practice listening, grow your vocabulary, and build confidence step by step. If you enjoy the lessons, don't forget to like this channel and subscribe so you'll get a notification every time a new episode is uploaded. No shortcuts, no stress, just real English you can use every day. Let's get started. In this episode, we uncover the truth about learning English. There are no magic shortcuts like sleep learning. Real fluency comes from active practice, daily routines, and connecting English with your passions for long-term success. Learning myths versus reality. When people begin the journey of learning English, they often look for shortcuts. Language acquisition is a long process that requires dedication. And in our busy modern lives, many learners hope to discover a magic trick that will save time. One of the most popular and appealing ideas is the myth of learning while sleeping. Advertisements, YouTube videos, and online courses sometimes claim, "Just play an audio track at night and you will wake up fluent in English." At first, this sounds like a dream come true. Imagine going to bed, putting on your headphones, and in the morning discovering that you have memorized dozens of new words. But is this promise reality, or is it simply a myth that plays on people's hopes? In this essay, we will explore the difference between myths and reality in language learning. We will look at why sleep learning does not work, what science tells us, and why active learning and consistent practice are the true paths to success. The myth: learning while sleeping. The idea of sleep learning is attractive because it promises maximum results with minimal effort. Our lives are filled with responsibilities: work, school, family, and chores. Finding extra time to study feels difficult. So, when we hear that we can use wasted time during sleep to master a new language, we naturally want to believe it. Advertisements often use powerful images: a student wearing headphones in bed, English words floating into their brain, and the next morning they speak fluently. The myth appeals to our natural desire for easy solutions. Psychologists call this the effort minimization bias. We prefer methods that promise speed, comfort, and efficiency, even if they are unrealistic. The reality: what science says. For decades, scientists have studied what the brain does during sleep. Sleep is not wasted time. It plays an important role in consolidating memories and strengthening knowledge we already learned during the day. But here is the key. While sleep helps us store and solidify information we have already practiced, it does not allow us to learn completely new material. In other words, if you listen to English vocabulary while sleeping without ever studying those words before, your brain will not magically acquire them. At best, you might become slightly familiar with the sounds, but you will not build lasting memory or real understanding. Researchers have repeatedly confirmed that new learning requires conscious attention. Your brain must be awake, engaged, and active. That is why you cannot master English grammar, vocabulary, or pronunciation simply by letting audio play at night. Active versus passive learning. To understand why the sleep learning myth fails, it is useful to examine the difference between active learning and passive learning. Passive learning happens when information flows into your brain without active engagement. Examples include listening to an English podcast while cooking, or watching a TV show with subtitles in your native language while scrolling on your phone. Sleep learning is the most passive form of all because your brain is not even awake. Active learning, on the other hand, requires conscious participation. It means listening carefully, asking questions, writing notes, practicing pronunciation, and using the language. When you are active, your brain creates stronger neural connections. These connections become the foundation of long-term memory. Think about riding a bicycle. You cannot learn simply by watching videos of other people cycling. You have to get on the bike, fall a few times, and practice balancing. The same is true for English. Without active participation, speaking, writing, listening with focus, you cannot become fluent. Why the myth persists. If science has already disproven sleep learning, why do people still believe it? There are several reasons. Hope and motivation. People want to believe in easy solutions because language learning feels difficult. Commercial marketing. Companies sell products and apps that promise quick results, even if the claims are exaggerated. Partial truth. Since sleep consolidates existing memories, people confuse that with learning new things during sleep. The persistence of the myth shows how important it is for learners to separate wishful thinking from evidence-based practice. The reality of language learning. The truth may be less magical, but it is much more powerful. Learning English requires time, effort, and dedication. Instead of chasing shortcuts, learners should focus on methods that actually work. Reality-based strategies include active listening, paying full attention to English audio, taking notes, and practicing comprehension. Speaking practice, using English aloud, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Reading actively, predicting, highlighting, and summarizing texts. Writing regularly, keeping a journal, writing sentences, and learning from corrections. Building routines, practicing every day for short periods, creating habits that accumulate over time. This process may sound slower than sleep learning, but it leads to real progress. Every new word you use in a sentence, every conversation you attempt, and every mistake you correct becomes a stepping stone toward fluency. The value of effort. While the myth of learning during sleep offers an illusion of zero effort, the reality teaches us an important lesson. Effort itself is valuable. When you invest time in practicing English, you are not only learning the language, but also building discipline, patience, and confidence. The feeling of successfully understanding a movie in English or having a conversation with someone from another country is far more rewarding than any imagined shortcut. These achievements are meaningful precisely because they required hard work. A journey, not a trick. It helps to think of language learning as a journey rather than a trick. Journeys take time, planning, and persistence. Along the way, there will be challenges, days when you feel motivated and days when you feel tired. There will be moments when progress feels slow, but every step moves you forward. Instead of dreaming of waking up fluent after one night, imagine yourself improving little by little each day. After 1 week, you know a few new words. After 1 month, you can write short paragraphs. After 6 months, you can have simple conversations. After 1 year, you can read books and watch shows with confidence. This steady growth is not only realistic, it is also sustainable and deeply satisfying. Conclusion. The myth of learning English while sleeping is attractive but false. Science shows that our brains cannot acquire new language while we sleep. They can only strengthen what we have already practiced. True progress requires active learning, listening with focus, speaking with courage, reading with curiosity, and writing with intention. Instead of wasting time on shortcuts that do not work, learners should embrace the reality. Language learning is a journey that demands effort, consistency, and patience. Far from being discouraging, this reality is empowering. It means that success is not based on luck or magic tricks. It is based on your own dedication and persistence. Every sentence you practice, every conversation you attempt, and every small victory is proof that you are moving forward. In the end, the reality of learning may take longer than the myth, but it is also far more rewarding. Because when you finally use English confidently in real life, you know that you earned it, not in your sleep, but through your effort and persistence while awake. Chapter 2. Active versus passive learning. One of the most important concepts for any English learner to understand is the difference between active learning and passive learning. These two modes of learning are not equal. In fact, they often determine whether your study time leads to real progress or wasted effort. Many learners confuse the two, thinking that exposure alone is enough. But the truth is, while passive learning can support your journey, only active learning will move you forward toward fluency. This essay will explore what passive learning looks like, why it is limited, how active learning works, and why it is the true secret to mastering English. What is passive learning? Passive learning happens when you receive information without doing much with it. Your brain is relaxed and not fully engaged. It is like sitting in the passenger seat of a car. You see the road, but you are not the one driving. Common examples of passive learning include playing an English podcast in the background while cooking, watching an English movie with subtitles in your native language, having the TV on in English while you scroll through your phone. In these situations, your ears may hear English, but your brain is not working hard to process or use the language. At best, passive learning can help you get used to the rhythm, sounds, and intonation of English. You may feel more comfortable hearing the language, but on its own, it is not enough to build memory or real skill. Sleep learning is the most extreme form of passive learning. Your brain is resting, not working at all. What is active learning? Active learning is the opposite. It is when you engage directly with the language. Your brain is alert, focused, and making decisions. You are not just observing, you are participating. In the car metaphor, this is when you are the driver. You must watch the road, use the steering wheel, and make choices. Examples of active learning include listening to a podcast and writing down the main ideas, watching a movie in English with English subtitles and pausing to check new words, speaking with a language partner and trying to express your thoughts, writing a short paragraph in your English journal, doing a grammar exercise or vocabulary quiz. In all these activities, you are not simply receiving language, you are using it. This usage tells your brain, this information is important, save it. That signal creates strong neural connections, which we call memory. Why active learning works better? The human brain is built to learn by doing. Think of learning to ride a bicycle. Could you learn simply by watching videos? Of course not. You must climb onto the bike, attempt to pedal, and maybe fall a few times. Each attempt teaches your brain and body something new. Eventually, with enough practice, riding becomes automatic. Language is the same. You cannot become fluent by only listening passively. You must speak, write, and interact with the language. Mistakes are part of the process. Every time you try to form a sentence, even if it's imperfect, your brain is building the pathways it needs for fluency. When you are active, your brain labels the information as meaningful. It builds connections between words, sounds, and situations. These connections are what allow you to recall and use English in real conversations. The limitations of passive learning. To be clear, passive learning is not useless. It can play a supporting role in your journey. Listening to English music while cleaning or watching an English show casually can help you become more familiar with the language. It can create a background environment of English. But the limitation is that passive learning does not challenge your brain. Without challenge, there is no growth. You may feel like you are studying because you're surrounded by English, but in reality, you are not building strong skills. Some learners spend months or even years in this trap. They consume English passively but avoid active practice because it feels harder. As a result, their listening comfort improves, but they struggle to speak, write, or recall vocabulary when needed. Combining passive and active learning. The most effective learners use passive learning as a supplement to active practice. For example, you might passively listen to a song several times, then actively study the lyrics and sing along. You might watch a TV show casually, then rewatch an episode with English subtitles and pause to learn new expressions. You might listen to a podcast while commuting, then later write a short summary of what you understood. This combination keeps your exposure high while ensuring that your brain is doing the hard work required for real memory and skill building. Mindset shift from observer to participant. One of the biggest challenges in moving from passive to active learning is psychological. Active learning feels harder. It requires effort, focus, and sometimes the courage to make mistakes. Many learners avoid it because they fear embarrassment or failure. But here is the truth. Mistakes are not signs of failure. They are signs of growth. Every error you make in speaking or writing is an opportunity to learn. When you avoid active learning, you also avoid the possibility of improvement. To shift your mindset, remind yourself, you cannot drive a car by watching. You must sit in the driver's seat. In English learning, that means speaking out loud, writing regularly, and engaging directly with the material. Practical tips for active learning. Use the pause and repeat method. When watching a video, pause after an interesting sentence. Repeat it out loud, copying pronunciation and intonation. Summarize everything. After reading or listening, write or say a one-sentence summary. This forces you to process the meaning. Keep a journal. Write daily, even if just a sentence or two. Over time, increase to paragraphs. Speak to yourself. Narrate your actions in English. I am making coffee. I need a spoon. This builds fluency and comfort. Ask questions. When reading, stop and ask, what does this mean? Why is it written this way? Answering forces deeper understanding. The secret of progress in English. It is not hidden. It is simply this. Be active. Every time you engage with English in a meaningful way, you are telling your brain to remember. Every small action adds up. 10 minutes of active practice is often more valuable than an hour of passive exposure. Consistency matters more than intensity. Active learning, practiced daily, builds habits that carry you forward. Over weeks and months, these habits transform your skills. Conclusion. Active and passive learning are both part of the language journey, but they are not equal. Passive learning makes you comfortable with the sounds of English. Active learning gives you the ability to use it. Passive learning is like watching others ride a bicycle. Active learning is getting on the bike yourself. The myth of sleep learning and other shortcuts comes from misunderstanding this difference. True fluency requires active engagement, listening with focus, speaking with courage, reading with curiosity, and writing with intention. So, the next time you feel tempted to let English play in the background and call it study, remember, you are only a passenger. To move forward, you must take the driver's seat. Be active, embrace mistakes, and watch your skills grow. Chapter 3. Listening Skills. Listening is the foundation of language learning. It is the first skill children use to acquire their native tongue, and it remains essential for adults learning English. But just hearing English is not enough. To truly improve, learners must practice active listening, engaging with the sounds, meaning, and context of what they hear. Passive listening occurs when English is in the background, music playing while you clean, or a podcast while you scroll your phone. This may help you become familiar with the rhythm of English, but it will not significantly improve comprehension. Active listening, in contrast, means giving your full attention. You listen with purpose, concentration, and a strategy. Technique 1. Focused listening. Set aside 10 to 15 minutes in a quiet place without distractions. Choose a short audio clip, perhaps from a graded podcast, news story, or TV scene, slightly above your level. Listen once without stopping, and focus on the general idea. Who is speaking? What is happening? Then listen again, pausing to catch details or note unknown words. Finally, listen a third time to check how much more you can understand. This repeated, focused practice trains your brain to process English sounds more efficiently. Technique 2. Listening with a purpose. Give yourself a clear task before listening. For example, what will the temperature be tomorrow if listening to a weather report? Or what is the main problem in the story when hearing a podcast? Other options include writing down 5 keywords or summarizing the message in one sentence afterward. These activities transform listening from a passive activity into a goal-driven exercise. Technique 3. Using transcripts. Many learner-friendly podcasts and videos provide transcripts. They are powerful tools for active listening. First, listen without the text. Then, listen while reading the transcript, connecting sounds with spelling and grammar. Next, read the transcript aloud, copying pronunciation and rhythm. Finally, listen again without the text. By combining listening, reading, and speaking, you turn one exercise into a multi-skill lesson. Technique 4. Repetition and shadowing. Repetition is critical. Listening to the same clip several times deepens comprehension. Shadowing, a method where you speak along with the audio, imitating pronunciation and intonation, further sharpens your listening and speaking together. Why active listening works. When you listen actively, your brain labels the sounds as important. It works harder to decode meaning, remember new words, and connect them to context. Over time, this builds strong neural pathways, making English easier to process naturally. Passive listening provides familiarity. Active listening creates mastery. Conclusion. Improving listening is not about playing English in the background all day, it is about focused practice. By listening with intent, using transcripts, repeating, and summarizing, you train your brain to understand more with less effort. Active listening is challenging, but it is also the fastest way to unlock comprehension and prepare for real conversations. Chapter 4. Speaking Skills. Speaking is often the most intimidating part of learning English, yet it is also the most rewarding. Many learners hesitate because they fear mistakes, but in reality, mistakes are signs of progress. To improve, you must actively practice speaking, even when alone. A simple starting point is speaking aloud. When reading, do not read silently. Instead, pronounce the words. Your mouth and tongue are muscles that need exercise to produce English sounds correctly. Repeating short phrases from movies or podcasts helps improve rhythm and pronunciation. Another powerful technique is narrating your life. Describe daily actions in English. I am walking to the kitchen. I need a cup of coffee. This practice trains your brain to form sentences automatically. Answering questions aloud also builds fluency. Search for basic conversation questions, such as, "What is your favorite food?" and respond with full sentences, adding details. Recording your answers on a phone helps you identify areas for improvement. Speaking English is a skill that grows with use. The perfect time to start is now, and the more you practice out loud, the more confident and natural you will sound in real conversations. Chapter 5. Reading Skills. Reading is one of the most effective ways to strengthen English, but simply moving your eyes across words is not enough. To gain real benefit, you must become an active reader. Start by predicting before you read. Look at the title, pictures, or the first sentence and guess what the text will be about. This prepares your brain to understand more quickly. While reading, interact with the text. Underline new vocabulary, highlight main ideas, or write short notes in the margin. This engagement makes the material more memorable. After finishing, summarize. Close the book and try to retell the story in your own words, either aloud or in writing. For example, this article was about a boy who visited the park on Sunday. Summarizing forces you to process and recall the information, strengthening comprehension and vocabulary. Finally, balance intensive reading with extensive reading. Intensive reading means working with slightly difficult texts, analyzing details. Extensive reading means enjoying easy books or articles for pleasure without stopping to check every word. Both are valuable. One builds depth, the other builds speed and confidence. By actively engaging before, during, and after reading, you transform reading from a passive habit into a powerful learning tool. Chapter 6. Writing Skills. Writing is a powerful way to practice English because it forces you to slow down, organize your thoughts, and use grammar and vocabulary actively. Unlike speaking, where words disappear quickly, writing gives you time to reflect and improve. The best way to start is small. Write 1 or 2 sentences every day about your routine. Today, I woke up early. I went to school. Over time, expand into short paragraphs, such as describing your weekend or your favorite food. Consistency matters more than length. Keeping a journal is a practical method. You can record your thoughts, goals, or daily events in English. Even a few minutes of journaling builds fluency. Guided writing, such as answering prompts, "What do you enjoy doing in your free time?" also helps you practice specific structures. Another useful step is to check your writing. Use grammar tools or ask a teacher or friend for feedback. Compare corrected sentences with your originals to notice patterns of mistakes. Writing is not about perfection. It is about progress. Each sentence you create strengthens your ability to express ideas. With steady practice, writing becomes a reliable path toward clarity, accuracy, and confidence in English. Chapter 7. Vocabulary. Vocabulary is the building block of English, but memorizing long lists rarely works. The key is to make words meaningful and personal. When you learn a new word, connect it to an image, sentence, or memory. For example, instead of just learning apple, imagine buying one at the market and saying the word aloud. Practice collocations, words that often appear together, like make a decision or take a break. Review words regularly using flashcards or spaced repetition apps. Most importantly, use new vocabulary in writing or speaking. Active use is what transfers words from short-term memory into lasting knowledge. Chapter 8. Consistency and Routine. Consistency is more important than intensity in language learning. Practicing English for just 15 minutes every day is more effective than studying for hours once a week. A routine helps remove the need for constant motivation because the habit itself keeps you on track. Small, daily actions build momentum, like pushing a ball. It gets easier to keep going once it's moving. To create a routine, start by finding a regular time that fits your day, such as in the morning, during lunch, or before bed. Begin small and realistic. Don't aim for hours. 10 to 20 minutes is enough to build the habit. Use habit stacking by connecting English practice to existing habits, like studying after brushing your teeth or while commuting. A sample weekly plan might include listening on Monday, reading on Tuesday, speaking on Wednesday, vocabulary on Thursday, writing on Friday, and fun activities like movies on Saturday, with Sunday for review or rest. Be flexible. Life can interrupt your routine. Missing one day is fine, but don't miss 2 in a row. With a steady routine, progress becomes automatic, and over time, small efforts add up to big results. Chapter 9. Fun and Passion. Enjoyment is the secret ingredient to long-term success in learning English. If studying feels like a boring task, motivation quickly disappears. But when you connect English with your passions, things you already love, it becomes exciting and natural. Your passions could be movies, music, sports, cooking, games, or fashion. By mixing them with English, learning feels less like study and more like a hobby. For example, watch your favorite movies in English, change your video game settings to English, follow English cooking blogs, or read news about your favorite sports team in English. Music is also powerful. Sing along with English songs and learn natural phrases. Why does this work? When you enjoy an activity, your brain is relaxed and engaged. You focus more, remember better, and stay motivated. You also learn useful, real-life vocabulary that you are likely to use again. Think about what excites you most, then bring English into those activities. This way, learning becomes an adventure. By making English part of your passions, you will keep going, improve faster, and never run out of motivation. Chapter 10. Final Lessons. There are no magic shortcuts to learning English. Sleep learning and quick tricks don't work. Real progress comes from steady effort and active practice. The key is to engage your brain. Listen with focus, speak with courage, read with curiosity, and write with purpose. Consistency matters more than intensity. Practicing a little every day builds strong habits and leads to big results over time. Connecting English to your life and passions makes learning enjoyable and keeps motivation high. Be patient and kind to yourself. Every learner makes mistakes, and every small step forward is a success. Compare yourself only to the person you were yesterday, not to others. Learning English is a journey. Celebrate your progress, enjoy the process, and trust that with dedication and joy, your skills will continue to grow.